Hello, welcome back to my channel. It has been a hot minute since I recorded any type of long form video, and I apologize for that. Life has been so busy. My daughter turns 2 in a couple of days, and we have very much entered the terrible twos season. She is wonderful, but she is a menace. My hands have been so full. I'm honestly lucky if I get any time to honestly do anything during the day. And so recording these videos, they've been on my mind. I've been really itching to hop on here and share what's been going on in my world, in my writing journey, but I just have not been able to find the time to carve out to do it. That being said, it's currently Sunday as I'm recording this, and she's down for a nap. My husband is hanging out with my son downstairs, and I finally said, you know what? I'm gonna go upstairs. I'm gonna do my thing for a little bit. You guys will be okay. I'll be back. So here I am finally recording this video, and I'm so excited about it. Right here, I have the printed out version of my second draft. I'm covering this part down here because it has the official title name I finally decided on. I'm 16 months into my writing journey, and this entire time I have not been able to come up with a title. I've been referencing my project as Project Hourglass because there's the element of an hourglass in it, but that is not the title. And up to this point, I have had no idea what the title is going to be. And then I finished draft 2, and I was actually doing some edits. I was reading through the physical copy, and there was a line that just really stood out to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to run with this. And I literally was just scribbling down, like, you can literally see on the paper, you can see my like just jotting down title ideas, and then one finally stuck, and I was like, okay, first off, this sounds dope. It sounds like a legitimate fantasy title, which I'm so excited about. But it also just kind of like hit me right in the chest, and I was like, this is perfect. It encompasses everything that's going on in my story. I think it's intriguing. I want to share it with you, but I'm going to wait. Obviously, sorry. But I'm very, very thrilled. I think that was a huge milestone for me, just in my writing journey in general, to finally figure that out. So I'm really, really excited. So speaking of which, since I last hopped on here, I finished draft 2 of my story. This is only like half of it. Not even. This is less than a quarter of my manuscript. I actually don't know where the other part is. I think it's somewhere downstairs, but I'm officially done with draft 2. Draft 2 ended around 93,000 words, which was below where I wanted it to be. But by the time I finished, and as I was going through my reread, I could see just plenty of places where I needed to develop the story more, add more conversations. There are integral scenes that need to be included. So I'm not worried about hitting my word count. If you're not familiar, the industry standard for fantasy novels is generally right around 100K. I believe it's between 100 and 120,000 is sort of the acceptable range for a debut fantasy novel. So that was always my aim. My first draft ended around 106,000. This one ended around 93,000, but lots and lots of places to really develop the story and increase that word count in a meaningful way and in a way that has purpose. So I'm feeling okay about that. I have begun writing draft 3, and I am having the best time ever, truly. So if you're new to my journey, or even if you're not, I'll just do a little refresh. I started writing draft 1, and draft 1 was really a draft 0, but I was not familiar with the concept of a 0 draft before this point, right? So I went in draft 1, I had a general idea of what I wanted the story to be. I finished, so got my story all the way written, and then realized I have to throw the whole thing in the bin. My characters aren't where I want them to be. The plot is not how I envisioned. It's just the whole thing had to go, with the exception of my core characters. I was like, okay, there is a place for these guys, but they want me to tell a different story. And so I started draft 2. But I also, something different I did this time around is I made a more thorough outline. So I'm definitely more of a pantser, a discovery writer. Again, that's where a zero draft came in. I love that. That is a perfect sort of method for me and my writing style. But going into my second draft, I realized, okay, I have a better idea of what I'm writing. I need to get more organized. And I actually talk about that in my last long form video. I think it's like Not Actually a Pantser or something like that. I'll link it in the description. But in that video, I talk about how I realized I need to get more organized. And organizing does not mean that you're putting yourself or your story in a box. You're simply making yourself a more thorough sort of map for your story. And that was a game changer for me. So I gave myself an outline. I literally drew a line, wrote my timeline, the branches of my story, just so I could really make sure I was hitting those beats the way I envisioned. Now again, draft 2, which was kind of more of a draft 1, a more solidified draft 1, there was still a lot of discovering happening because my main character, Eris, I had written her too immaturely, too young in my first draft. I did not want her to behave the way that she did in draft 1, in draft 2. So then I was sort of rediscovering who Eris was. And that was super fun. I feel like I got a way better handle on who she is the second time around. But that also affected her relationships with her family, with her friends, with the love interest. And so there was still a lot that I was learning as I was writing draft 2, even with having an outline to follow. But I just felt way more grounded in what I was doing. And so that was really excellent. And so now, fast forward, I'm currently working on draft 3 and I'm having a great time. Now, as I'm writing, I'm thinking more nitty gritty. How would this character specifically react in this situation? How would they respond based on what has just happened to them? Like, for example, in my second draft, one of the first things that happens right away is she is pushed into the sea. She is, there's an attempt made on her life, okay? And in draft 2, you know, she's just really trying to survive, but she really maintains this essence of like thought and intelligence and focus, even though she's literally trying to survive drowning. Whereas, and mind you, it's literally like on the cusp of winter, so it's cold. So just to contrast draft 2 to draft 3, this time, before I even wrote the scene, I literally went in and researched hypothermia and how that looks, how that affects someone who is in incredibly cold water, experiencing hypothermia, etc. Like, what does that do to you physically and mentally? And I incorporated that into my story. No, I wasn't like, and Eris goes hypothermic. Like, that's not the vibe. But instead of being this like calculated individual trying not to drown in the ocean, now she is being hindered by her body starting to shut down. And so I only bring that up because it's cool how now in draft 3, I feel like I really get to dig into the nitty gritty aspects of writing. And it's challenging, but it's fun. It's the kind of challenge that brings a smile to my face because it's still like the creative fun part of writing. Like, I'm definitely not to line edits yet, but it's forcing me as a writer to stretch myself. And so instead of being like, okay, like we're telling the story, they're getting from point A to point B, it's more, okay, how is this character specifically getting from point A to point B based on their background, their mannerisms, the dynamics they have with other characters, etc. And it's just incredible. Like, I think so many people think about writing a book and they think, oh my gosh, it's going to take so long. It's going to be so hard, you know, especially with the rise of AI. And we are seeing people using AI to pump out slop for, literature. I wish I could take every single person who's like, I just want to cut corners and say, you're missing out. You are missing out on the satisfaction that comes from growing in your craft, whether it's writing or anything else. Because I will admit that when I began writing draft 1, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so good if I just take my time. This will be the draft that I query with and it'll be fine and dandy. And then when I got to the end of draft 1, I was like, there's no way that I'm ever querying with this version of my story. And in that same train of thought, I was like, oh my God, I have to do this all over again. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I was also excited to do a full rewrite, but there was that sense of like, oh wow, this feels daunting. This is big. But just because you're feeling those feelings doesn't mean that they are bad. They're not inherently bad. They're not something that you need to actively avoid just because it's going to be hard or it's going to stretch you. And so again, when I think about people who want to cut corners or who don't even bother pursuing their dream because of the time it's going to take, it's like, first, there's the obvious. Time is passing anyways. The time is going to pass you by regardless of whether you actively pursue the thing or not. Okay, so really, you're just wasting your own opportunity to get to somewhere new in your life. But also, that thing that feels so daunting, those growing pains, are something that you're going to look back on and be so grateful for. They're what make you better. They're what shape you into a new person, a new version of the person who is doing the craft. Because like I said, I wouldn't be where I am right now writing draft 3 if I had not pushed through the obstacles that came with draft 1, if I had not had to, work through the muck and the confusion and the imposter syndrome, if I had not come to the realization that like, okay, organization isn't my strong suit, but that doesn't mean it's a skill I can't learn. Like, I actively chose to grow with my novel because that's what it required of me. And I don't regret that one bit. Like, I think that's what I'm trying to say is I do not regret the growth. And so, but I do think I would have regretted cutting corners. Like, I don't think I could feel good about my story if I had let anything else influence it. And I'm thinking specifically about like AI and stuff, not like brainstorming with a writing partner, but it just feels so good to be at this point. Like, it really does. And so like, if you're thinking about writing a book, it's okay to feel the big feelings. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel like, oh my gosh, this is a massive endeavor, because like at the end of the day, it is a massive endeavor, but that's something that you get to be so proud of once you fulfill that. And who knows, like, even if you just write a first draft and you decide, you know what, I'm actually not as excited about this as I thought, that's okay, but you're still going to come away having learned something from it. You're still going to have come back a new version of yourself because you went out and you did the thing. So anyway, as I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm looking at my manuscript, this quarter of it, and I just can't believe that I've done this twice now. Because I wrote my first draft and then I had to do a full rewrite. I did a full rewrite from memory, and I'm so glad I did it that way. And now for draft 3, I'm doing a hybrid. So like I mentioned before, there's a lot that has to be added that did not make it into draft 2. So there's a lot of scenes that don't exist yet. But what I'm doing this time is, because I feel like draft 2 was so much more solid and I feel like a lot of the content gets to continue existing in draft 3, what I'm doing is I'm writing, I'll read maybe part of the chapter, get a vibe check of like where I was going with the story, and then I look at the blank page and I say, okay, what does this need now? And then I am just writing from my head. I'm not like copying lines over unless I really like them. But for the most part, I'm sort of doing another rewrite, but I would say it's an inspired rewrite from draft 2. And it has been so fun. I am curious if you are writing, if you have gotten past draft 1, you've done multiple drafts of your manuscript now, how do you approach your more advanced drafts? Do you do it kind of like I mentioned, like a hybrid? Do you have it side by side? Do you sort of dive into like line editing? I know eventually I'm going to have to get to line editing, but because there is still so much that needs to be added into my story, I don't think that makes sense for me at this time. I think, honestly, I would just be sort of doubling my workload. I see that more meticulous edit coming for draft 4. But I'm curious, tell me in the comments how you approach your later drafts, because I'd love to hear from you. I've seen on YouTube other authors talk about, they just do a full rewrite. Like if they don't remember it, it wasn't meant to be in the story, that sort of thing. But for me, again, because I was so happy with draft 2, I could see myself rewriting the scene so that it lands better, so that it sounds better, but I don't necessarily feel like I need to write from memory again. So yes, anyway, not to beat a dead horse, but let me know in the comments how you're approaching your more advanced drafts, because I'm definitely curious. I'd love to hear from you. As far as what comes next, I am giving myself 60 days to finish draft 3, and I'm doing this because I do have such a strong foundation from draft 2. I don't want to sort of, lollygag, twiddle my thumbs. I don't want to sit with it for too long. Like, I don't want to procrastinate. I want to move things along because I have every intention of querying before the end of the year, because I know the querying process is going to be a beast in and of itself. And what I would really love is just to get my manuscript completed in a timely fashion, because I could see myself, sort of where my train of thought is I could see myself dragging my feet because I'm getting nervous about the prospect of querying. Not in this moment. In this moment, I don't feel nervous, but I could see myself sort of getting that anticipation anxiety and thinking like, oh, I'll just take it slow, or like, oh, we're so busy, I haven't had a chance to write. It's like, no, make the time. And so I did the math. If I can hit my normal word count of 1,700 words a day, I can be done by mid-June. So at the time of writing this, I've only hit my word count goal twice this week. The other few days I had writing session, I did not get a chance to write. And then there was some other stuff that happened, like this weekend, we were out of town. And so I'm not feeling super great about it, but I know that I can also make up for it. Like some days are going to look really good and you're going to hit the goal. Some days you're not. And then other days you're going to exceed the goal. So really, at the end of the day, I just want to make sure that I am focused, I am locked in, and I know clearly where the finish line is and what my deadline intention is. I just don't want to get derailed. I don't want to drag my feet, because again, I'd really love to start querying before the end of the year. I know that the querying process, I think most agents are kind of out of office for December. Like there's definitely a slow season, and off the top of my head, I can't recall exactly when that starts, but I either want to make sure that I start querying before then, like with plenty of time, or be ready to query when everyone is back in office. But ideally before then. I'd really like to query this year. As I said in the beginning of my video, I started this writing journey 16 months ago. And that's just wild. It's wild to me. It's been so up and down. It has not been linear at all. But it also hasn't been as chaotic as I thought it would be. I know everyone has a different, journey when it comes to this sort of thing, but I feel like because I have set goals for myself, I've been kind of on the straight and narrow. I think most of the chaos has just been living inside my head. Imposter syndrome, honestly, just being tired from kids. I am documenting my writing journey. And so there's definitely been times where I felt sort of, what's the word? I think just more imposter syndrome about sharing my journey online and not knowing if it's being received. And then that internal battle of, well, do you need other people to even watch your journey? Like, what's the intention with that? And it becomes this like mixture, that lives in my mind. And something I've been working on this year specifically is just focusing on the writing. Like, I love sharing my journey. I'm active on Instagram. I'm active on Shorts and TikTok. The long form videos have kind of taken a back seat, as I mentioned before. But, I do like sharing updates and, letting you guys know what I've been up to. I've always been that way my entire life. But I think for me, what's really important, where I have to sort of stay in my lane, is just making sure I'm not getting wrapped up in vanity metrics and then worrying about those metrics and whether or not they're going to affect my success as an author. Because at the end of the day, it's the book that's either going to sell or it's not. It's the book that's going to reach readers and impact readers or not. And so that's where I've been like, okay, keep doing the social media thing because I do enjoy it, but focus on the heart of the story. And I can't wait for you guys to meet these characters. I'm excited to hear what you think about them, if you feel like you can connect with them. I've been giving more thought to beta readers. My writing partner is actually going to be sending her manuscript out to beta readers in the next few weeks or so. And I've just been so torn about whether or not I want to have others read my story. I think I have like a couple people in mind who I would feel comfortable sending it to, but there is this small part of me that's sort of like, I kind of just don't want to do that, which sounds crazy. Honestly, I think it's a little bit influenced by another creator that I follow. She was sharing her writing journey, or she is actively sharing her writing journey, but she did the whole thing basically like on her own. She didn't even let her partner read it until it was like she was ready to query. And then she ended up being represented by an agent. She and her agent worked together on her manuscript, and then her book ended up going to auction. And so I think there is like a little part of me, maybe it's ego, I don't know, where I'm like, what if I just kind of like keep it to myself and I just do it and I see if I'm able to get representation, etc. But then the other part of me is like, oh my God, but like beta readers, how excellent would it be to get, outside feedback? But what I worry is, being able to draw the line in the sand of like, okay, this is their feedback. And maybe they, have opinions on things. I mean, they definitely would have opinions on things, duh. But I guess I just like want to make sure that I don't get influenced to change things that I genuinely like about my story, which I don't think that I would. But these are the thoughts that spiral in my head when I consider yes or no to beta readers, right? And so I think I'll know. I think when I'm closer to that point, I will know in my heart of hearts whether or not I feel like I want to go ahead and send it to people to read. I think it would definitely be a smaller group of people who I know are well-rounded readers who can, read it objectively and give me that higher level overview of feedback. But as of right now, my story's nowhere near ready for that. Like, I definitely want to be much closer to feeling like, okay, I want to query with this version of my story before I send it off for other people to read. So again, I think I'll know more once the time comes. But if you're currently writing a book, again, I'd love to know. Tell me in the comments. Have you had beta readers? Are you planning on beta readers? If you have had beta readers, how was your experience? How did you go about it? I'd love to know. So let me know in the comments, because I'm a newbie here to this writing game. And there's so many options. There's so many decisions. And I feel like whether you choose to go with beta readers or not, there's valid reasons for both sides. And yeah, so I'd love to know more. Speaking of writing journeys though, and telling me about it, I recently hosted a writers meetup in Seattle. So, not this last weekend, but the weekend before. I met up with about, I think there was 10 of us total at the Seattle Central Library, and it was so fun. Back in March, I sort of just got the itch to like have some writing community. And to be honest, so much of it was really inspired by the fact that like I watch other authortube creators here on YouTube, and I see them interacting with each other, and like sometimes they're interviewing each other, and I was like, I want that. Like, I want community too. And so I kind of I shoot my shot on Threads, and I was like, is there anyone who would be interested in meeting up? And the response was overwhelmingly positive. Like, I got so much feedback of other writers in the PNW greater Seattle area being like, yes, like, please do this. I want to be there. And yeah, we ended up making it happen, and it was like the perfect sized group. And I think the next time, I think I want to do it quarterly, just like a meetup where we like met up, we talked writing, we shared about our projects, and then we finished with a writing sprint. It was like a 15-minute sprint. But I want to do this quarterly, and I think the next time I'm going to host it in Bellingham, Washington. So if you're watching, and if you are in King County, Snohomish County, Skagit, Whatcom, you're more than welcome to join. I have like a writers meetup chat on Instagram. So if you find me at the Alexis Quinn, it's the same handle here on YouTube. I can add you to that chat if that's something that you would be interested in. But even if not, it was really great. Or even if you live farther away, but you're also wanting community with other writers, I highly recommend just putting yourself out there. I was so nervous. Even after getting all of the positive feedback, there was a huge part of me that was like, what if this is just super awkward? Like, what if I don't know what to say? What if we don't vibe? But that was so silly because it was great. Like, people from all different walks of life just coming together around one table to talk about the thing that we're all really passionate about. It was awesome. It was really, really great. And I'm really proud of myself for doing that, to be honest. I've always kind of like dreamed of putting myself out there like that and doing more events and hosting. And I think somewhere in my life, I kind of determined like, maybe I need to be more of a follower versus a leader. Or, sometimes too, it's just like, I'm willing to go with the flow. I'm happy to go with the flow. But I think sometimes it is fun to sort of head something up and say like, I got this. Like, I'm gonna sort of pave the way for this and bring people together. Like, it just felt really, really good. So if, you felt like doing something like that, I recommend giving it a shot. And yes, it is scary, but it is worth it. Yeah. But I think that's pretty much all I have as far as updates go. Wish me luck on hitting this 60-day goal for my third draft. That would be the shortest amount of time I've ever taken to write one of my drafts. Draft 1 took me like 6 months or so. And then draft 2, I think, took me 8 or 9 months. Maybe a little bit longer. I can't really recall. I know between both, I had about a month where I took time off. So I think the math is mathing there. But either way, wish me luck because I really want to move this process along, and I'm really excited. And just seeing the way that my writing has progressed from draft 1 to now draft 3, I'm really starting to feel like I could do this. Like, maybe my book could be published. Maybe you might pull my book off of a shelf. And that's just so surreal. I'm just so excited. But yeah, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for watching and taking the time. And if you have anything to add, I would love to hear from you in the comments. It seriously makes me so happy, like, to hear from you guys. And I'm gonna try to make another video sooner than 2 or 3 months down the line, but bear with me. I'm active on Instagram. Again, I'm active on, TikTok and in my shorter form videos. So check those out if you haven't already, and connect with me there if you want to. But yeah, until next time, bye!